Got another video for you guys. It's called the fish tier list. We're gonna learn about what fish are the meta. Oof. Oof. Oh! That was a Squirtle type of blast.
This video was made in partnership with CuriosityStream.
Yeesh!
Fish are one of the most diverse factions in the entire game. They are extremely popular among both casual and competitive players, and make up the vast majority of the aquatic player base. And with so many different potential fish builds to choose from, it can be difficult to know which builds are actually competitively viable in the current meta. So today, we're going to go through the tier list of fish. This will by no means be a comprehensive tier list. I mean, there are more than 3,000 variants of the Catfish build alone. Still, by highlighting the standout builds in both high and low tiers, hopefully I can give you a good understanding of where the fish faction fits into the current meta.
Yeah, let's find out.
And if there's a fish I didn't include, hopefully by seeing my logic in this video, you'll be able to evaluate that fish build yourself.
That fish just slapped his
also,
whole
quick
body into that
since
turtle.
I've already made a shark tier list, I'm omitting sharks from this video. But before we dive into the tier list, first I want to give you an overview of the abilities commonly found in the fish faction, as well as some background on the history of the fish build.
Fish.
So the basic fish build doesn't have much in terms of unique perks or abilities, which is actually great, as it means that each player has a lot of room for customization.
Nice.
The basic fish build is most famous for its use of the fin and gill abilities, both of which offer huge advantages in water while predictably being entirely useless on land. Back during the Devonian expansion, long before the vertebrate faction had unlocked terrestrial builds, fish were the top tier build in the game, having a crushing matchup against the top arthropods, their main competitors.
They were dominating the meta.
In today's meta, though, fish have to compete with a lot more than just arthropods, and typically place below the top marine builds like cetaceans and cephalopods. And with the nerfs to the placoderm armor ability that fish used to have access to, fish have had to get creative with their game strategies in order to survive the current meta.
Oh boy.
Now let's get into the tier list to see which strategies and abilities are worth speccing into if you're a fish player.
Rivals evolving.
Seahorses are an extremely strange build with the lowest mobility stat of any fish in the game. This mobility stat is due entirely to their strange choice to spec into the prehensile tail ability at the cost of all but one of their fins. Now, don't get me wrong, the prehensile tail ability can be extremely useful, especially for arboreal builds that use them to tether themselves to trees while keeping their hands and legs free for foraging. For a marine build, though, I think there are better choices available. All the prehensile tail does is allow the seahorse to anchor itself to plants and rocks, preventing itself from getting tossed around by the current, which again it wouldn't need to do if it didn't lack fins. Now, they do have pretty solid armor, which can make them difficult to actually take out. But their extreme lack of mobility means the seahorse cannot dodge attacks. This leads them to getting smacked around by any player who feels like it, even ones without any special combat perks. And with their best matchup being against plankton, to me there's no way the seahorse places any higher than F tier.
Man, yeah, that's... You could do a challenge run. If you want to do a challenge run, you know, that's who you play.
Also in F tier we have the ocean sunfish. This probably isn't too shocking.
Like dominating PvP, playing only seahorse.
Shocking, given that the sunfish is famously bad at defending itself. But for those unaware, the ocean sunfish has the highest HP stat of any fish in the game.
Oh my goodness.
And relies on its giant
Look at his... Is this like a
size for protection.
Fin?
Similar to the seahorse, the sunfish's other stats are all extremely low, and because of this, the sunfish gets bullied hard by many of the common marine threats, both large and small. They get torn to bits and tossed around particularly badly by the mammalian player base.
He's getting bullied!
Sea lions and orcas in particular love flexing their superiority over the largest fish build in the game.
He's just minding
but
his
the
own
sunfish
business,
has another huge
alone.
weakness: parasites. See, the sunfish has soft,
He's
mucus-coated skin instead of the scales traditionally used by fish players. This makes
just a soft boy!
the sunfish more vulnerable to parasites, which unfortunately means that even the best sunfish mains have to play while suffering from a wide variety of debuffs from parasite infestations.
Man!
The sunfish players often solicit the help of support mains like the wrasse and shrimp to help cleanse themselves.
Oh, that's nice
and
of them.
may even sit at the water's surface to give bird mains the chance to attack the parasites.
Oh!
The gigantism strategy is usually a pretty reliable strategy for avoiding attacks. Elephants, whales, hippos, and rhinos are generally safe from attacks once they reach their max size.
Yeah, he's just a soft chungus kind of lad. My poor boy. My poor sweet soft fishy boy. Taking an L here in the current meta. The world, it is so unkind.
However, I think in order to make this strategy work, you need to actually be able to strike back to discourage repeated attacks. Otherwise, you're kinda just a damage sponge and will have your HP slowly whittled down, as we often see happen to the Sunfish mains.
No!
So because of all these vulnerabilities and over-reliance on support players for help,
underwater.
I have to place the Ocean Sunfish in F tier.
Oof. Maybe they can team up with the Seahorses and have better luck.
The Flying Fish is a build with an extremely unique playstyle centered around maximizing mobility.
Let's go!
By putting a huge amount of evolution points into their fin trait and mobility stat, they've actually gained the ability to glide through the air for surprisingly long distances. This is useful as an escape option when being attacked by a larger fish player.
Look at him go!
However, as unique a move as this is, I actually think this is a pretty poor strategy overall.
Oh,
Being
but it
airborne
looks great.
might put you out of range of an attack from another fish, but it's by no means a safe position, and in many cases is actually seriously disadvantageous.
I feel like this is the emotional support fish. Whenever I see one, they do make me smile.
Without any way to dodge attacks midair, flying fish are extremely vulnerable to bird attacks, which kinda nullifies the benefit of escaping an aquatic pursuer. And in addition, with no way to change direction midair, it's actually not that difficult for said fish player to just intercept the flying fish's landing.
Oh.
So overall, not that useful of an ability, tacked onto an otherwise unremarkable build.
You can only fly fish
also
in one
D2
direction.
We have the salmon family, which includes the fish builds like the trout and the char. This build actually has some pretty impressive stats, with high mobility being pretty much required in order to withstand the constant rushing flow of the rivers that they use as their respawn points.
He can kind of fly
Similar
around
to the flying fish,
bit.
this playstyle is also highly vulnerable to disruption from non-aquatic players. As impressive as it is that salmon and trout mains are able to make these insane jumps, the sad truth is that the thing that they're most well known for is being an easy source of XP for carnivore players.
GG's!
Now, this jumping ability is also useful for attacking flying builds midair, but the salmon's power stat isn't quite enough to be able to take down anything that isn't far below their weight class.
Yeah, they only get the small fries.
At the bottom of C tier, we have the Catfish, one of the tankier builds on this list with a bulky yet versatile stat spread. A lot of players undervalue the Catfish and see it as low-tier trash due to it being a bottom feeder, not realizing that they've actually got a few decent unique abilities.
Yeah, he's
most
the
important of
trash
which
man.
is their venom. Rather than speccing their fin appendages to do things like flying or flexing, the Catfish build specced into fins that have barbs on them, which can deliver a venomous sting.
Oof, I didn't know
While
they
the
had
venom
those.
usually isn't able to deal lethal damage, it's still a decent defensive ability. It does have its weaknesses though, particularly to long, disjointed hitboxes, such as the spear-like beaks of some bird builds.
Not the disjointed
hitbox.
Someone needs to nerf that. Someone needs to patch it.
Being omnivorous and able to gain plenty of XP simply by digging through the mud for scraps.
L.
Also in C tier we have the archerfish, the only fish build with the ability to use a ranged attack. This projectile deals essentially 0 damage, but it's by no means useless. This projectile has high knockback.
Oh, this is the one that was firing the squirt gun at the beginning.
Making it excellent for pushing players into vulnerable positions.
Natural
the waterlogged
water
insect
gun
is one
ability?
of the easiest targets in the game, and being able to force that type of interaction is an extremely powerful ability. This ability does have its limitations though. As is the case with most projectiles, this attack is unusable in the water, meaning that the archerfish doesn't really have any good moves for PvP against other aquatic players. I think the biggest
he's gotta peek his head out into the world he doesn't even take part in and be like, hey, you over there, f you in particular. Hey, you over there! I'm gonna pick a fight with you, cause I can't pick a fight with anyone next to me.
So this playstyle, though, is the position that you're forced into in order to make use of your projectile weapon. Being near the surface of the water leaves you vulnerable to both attacks from below and above, and with no defense against either, the archerfish is a high-risk, decent reward build.
Yeah, talk about a glass cannon.
In B tier, we have the builds that are generally solid picks, but lack any truly overpowered abilities. First is the bass, the poster child for the phrase, big fish in a small pond. With solid
That's a
stats
big
and the ability
fish.
to grow larger than most other freshwater lake
That's a
fish,
big, that's
the
a
bass
chunky
can easily
lad.
dominate their local scene, even
a
to the
big
point
boy.
of depleting the area of resources by gobbling them all up. Their
Nom, nom, nom,
generalist
nom.
nature and large jaws mean they can prey upon just about anything from smaller
He's got a
fish to
big mouth.
crustaceans to even builds like frogs and alligators. While there's not that much that's flashy or unique about this strategy, there's no denying that the bass is a
Clap.
consistent threat in the pond meta, and I consider them the gatekeepers of the higher tiers.
Hello.
Also in B tier, we have the
Gatekeeper of
fish
the
faction's
pond.
premier support class, the cleaner wrasse. The
They just get bigger and more derpy looking the better they are.
cleaner wrasse specializes in cleansing larger fish players of parasites, providing an extremely useful service in the form of removing debuffs from any fish player in need, similar to the
Oh,
oxpecker
nice.
on land. Parasites are a major threat to fish players, so it's no
He-
surprise
he's a
that
really good
oftentimes
support
even
class.
top-tier
Look
builds
at how
like
he's
sharks
helping.
will add cleaner wrasse
He's
players to their
helping.
party. Wrasse do have to rely on
What
their
a
reputation to
gentleman,
protect
being a
them,
dentist
and
for
while
the other
betrayals
fish.
during cleansing sessions are rare, swimming into a mouthful of dagger-like teeth is not without risk.
Rip.
Alright, now we're in A
Don't
tier, and
eat
this is
me,
where
I'm
things
the
start to
fish
get a bit
dentist.
overpowered. First, we have the Pickerel Guild, which includes the pike and muskellunge, the most
Oh,
fearsome
boy.
freshwater fish in the game. These vicious fish builds are highly aggressive and attack anything in or around their
Whoa.
domain, from fish to
Eesh.
birds to mammals and even humans. Their
He's
powerful
very
jaws
aggro.
sport sharp
Very aggro
crocodile-esque
play
teeth,
style.
which deal serious damage and grip their target, preventing their escape.
Gay bus.
But it's not just about power with these fish. Their slender body and camouflage allow them to easily hide in cover,
Oh, he's sneaky,
waiting
he's
for the perfect
sneaking!
ambush opportunity.
He's got
And
stealth.
unlike trout, when these fish jump, it's not just to clear an obstacle. They jump to attack. Their
Oh!
only weakness is a slow growth rate and long respawn timer. But even at
That
low
fish
levels,
was like calling
these
an
fish are
ambulance,
adept
but not
hunters.
for me.
While not part of the Pickerel Guild, I also include the Barracuda in this same rating, as they have a very similar playstyle. Giant size is not a requirement to be a high-tier predator, though, as exemplified by
like
the
the
next
big,
build on this list, the Piranha.
Big boys, though. The big fishes.
Piranhas are one of
Piranha.
the best, if not the best, example of how with the right combination of special abilities and team strategies, size genuinely doesn't matter. Their special ability, Feeding Frenzy, boosts Piranha shoal DPS to one of the highest in the game, able to absolutely
Yeah,
melt
they've
through the
got
HP
super
of even the
sharp
tankiest
teeth.
targets. In
Right?
contrast to the salmon and trout, because of their favorable matchup against larger players, piranhas are the only fish
Oh,
build on this
no!
list that I think actually make great use of
Run,
its
guinea
positional
pig!
advantage
Oh,
in rivers,
no!
as many mammals and birdmains will
Rest
be
in
forced to
pieces.
cross your territory over the course of their playthrough and
Rest
fall
in
victim to your
pieces.
frenzy attacks. Their main weakness is a lack of defensive capability, meaning that they can still be easily one-shot by other predator players.
He got
The next
munched.
build on this tier list does not share this weakness. The Lionfish is one of the most well-defended fish builds in the game,
Bro,
relying on a
lionfishes are
huge
scary.
arsenal of venomous spines to deal serious damage to attackers.
All you have to do is barely
similar to
get
the
touched by
porcupine
one,
build
and it
on
will
land.
mess you up for life.
Because of this, the Lionfish is an
terrifying.
infamously unpleasant target to attack, and most
Actually
predator players
terrifying.
tend to either ignore or actively avoid them. While
Let me
their
kill
other
you,
stats
please.
are quite low, this certainly hasn't stopped them from rising to dominance in their home server of the Indo-Pacific.
Like, you just have to
Lionfish
barely
are also
come in contact
generalists
with
who
one of
gobble up
these.
anything that their low mobility
like
stat
sticking
allows
your
them
finger
to catch,
into an
which
outlet.
can quickly deplete a server of its resources. And because of their quick respawn rate, lionfish have rapidly spread to other ocean servers without much pushback, at least until they reach the tropical Atlantic. See, there is one fish build that has been able to consistently take down lionfish.
Wait, really?
And once I show you how broken some of
I
their
didn't know they
abilities
had
are,
a
it'll be
predator
easy to
that took
understand
them
why.
out.
We've got 2 more builds to showcase in S tier.
That's
but real
pretty
quick,
metal,
I just want
'cause
to point
they're
out
really
that this is
dangerous.
the longest video I've made so far, and took a huge amount of time and
What?
resources to produce. So if you're enjoying it and want more content like this,
Lionfish are an
please do
invasive
consider
species?
subscribing. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Make sure to subscribe to Tierzoo. They
The
got
Moray
great
eel
stuff.
is one of the most uniquely powerful fish in the game, with a set of strange yet highly functional abilities and well-placed base stat allocations. So first, their stats.
That was a big
While the
munch. Holy
highest
crap.
aquatic power rating falls to sharks and whales, a close
Right.
runner-up is the Moray. Their teeth resemble broken glass and can do similarly
They
brutal
also
damage
look
in
so silly. They're so dangerous, but they look like silly little underwater, like rotten bananas.
combat. Their mobility
Look
is
at that
surprisingly
rotten
high
banana
for a
with
fish that
teeth
lacks
and a
pectoral
silly
and pelvic
face.
fins, But in addition to having great
What a
maneuverability in the
dangerous
tight
little
spaces
noodle
of
in
a
the
reef,
ocean.
they're capable of some pretty impressive bursts of speed too. Their stealth may seem low due to their vibrant coloring, but honestly, bright colors are everywhere in reef
Look at how much of a goober he looks like. I know he's a threat, but my man looks like he has one brain cell entirely, and that's about it. This is the silliest serial killer I've ever seen in my life underwater. I'm just saying.
So they don't stick out too much. In fact, their ability to contort and fit into crevices and other tight spaces gives them a pretty huge advantage for ambushing other players. Where things get interesting though is with their defense. The Moray has a slime-based special ability, which serves multiple defensive purposes. It protects them from taking abrasion and puncture damage while passing through sharp coral and jagged spaces within the reef.
I didn't know that. That makes a lot of sense.
More surprisingly, it's great at deflecting damage from things like teeth and spikes. Not only does this give them a great matchup against sharks, but it also makes them one of the only builds in the game capable of taking down the lionfish.
Holy crap!
This excellent matchup spread makes placing the Moray eel in
That's crazy. If you told me that Moray eels could kill lionfish, I would not believe you. That's insane.
Here an easy decision.
Cause like, they're not that big, you know? They're just, I never would have guessed. The nemesis of the deadly lionfish is just a pool noodle with googly eyes. Truly something, truly
The final
something.
build on this tier list is the Billfish. This includes the marlin, swordfish, and sailfish, all of which have similar playstyles. This group is top tier for two reasons. First is that they have the highest swim speed in the game, beating out not just all other fish, but also mammals and birds. In addition to having unmatched speed, their large dorsal fins allow them to make tighter turns than most fish too, making them extremely good at chasing down prey. Their most unique trait, however, is their bill, one of the strangest offensive abilities in the game.
Oh my god.
Useful for both slashing and stabbing, this attack is one of the few in the game able to hit multiple targets at once. This makes it excellent for countering the ubiquitous safety in numbers strategy many fish players adopt. And since the billfish hunt in packs, they can rack up insane kill counts, rivaling the hunting prowess of even a pot of dolphins. With busted stats and a signature move that's both flashy and downright broken, to me there's no question that the Billfish is the most overpowered fish build in the game. Regardless of where your favorite fish build falls on the tier list,
swordfish came with friends.
Sure, adaptation is key to survivability in the current meta.
Yeah, it's like a
and it's important
underwater
to always be exploring new strategies to stay ahead of the curve. The same can be said for YouTubers, and this is why a bunch of creators and I have started an experiment called Nebula, a new platform that gives us the freedom to pursue the projects we want without needing to fear demonetization nor optimize for YouTube's desired metrics. In addition to posting ad-free versions of all my new videos days in advance on Nebula, there's also hours of original content on there that you can't get anywhere else. On top of my Let's Play Outside series, which I've talked about before, I've also recently put out a podcast with my friend Alex from the channel Low Spec Gamer, where he interviews me about my creation process and how I started this channel. I'd love for you to go and check it out. So what does CuriosityStream have to do with this? Well, not only have they been this channel's biggest supporter for quite some time now, they've also partnered with Nebula so that we can bring you both services for less than the cost of either one individually.
Epic.
Normally, the annual subscription to CuriosityStream is $20 a year.
I feel like other subscription services should do that. Team up with each other and give a discount on having both of them.
Easily one of the best deals in streaming. And of course, CuriosityStream is also an excellent service, with thousands of high-quality documentaries to buff your knowledge stat. If you want to learn more about fish, I recommend their docuseries Deep Ocean, narrated by the legendary David Attenborough. But if you're just in the mood for some nostalgia, they've also got those awesome old BBC dinosaur documentaries too. So whatever you're in the mood for, this bundle has you covered.
Videos were so
to get started,
silly looking.
Head over to curiositystream.com/Tierzoo. Thank you all so much for watching, and thanks especially to my patrons on Patreon.
Graphics
Until next time, good luck out there.
Just makes them even more good. They like look so silly and cursed. That was great. I still can't stop thinking about how the eel can straight up kill a lionfish. That's insane. The pool noodle really be a dangerous predator. It's very good. Yeah, I learned something new today.